On this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about session and also how to read from the database. So the HTTP is a stateless protocol. What that means is that the server does not know where the request is coming from when a user goes visit that website. And that's bad because we programmers would not be able to know where the request is coming from, or if there is more than one request from the same browser. To solve this problem, we have what's called a session. So the session is a space in memory on the server side where we can store information. Because this memory is on the server side, we should use the least amount possible. We should not use a whole bunch, because if we have a large website and we have thousands of clients coming visit at the same time, then we're going to run out of memory really quick on the server side. So the other advantage is that each browser will have a unique session. So if two people are visiting the website at the same time, then these two people will have different session within the web server. And that's a great thing because we can track everybody at the same time. So to enable session, we have to change the code in a couple of lines. This one here I will change for you. So here's how we save a value to the session, and also how we read a value from the session. So here in the top we have http context.session.setString, and then here we have a key value pair. The key is a person ID and the value is 21. So the key is something that you need to remember, because later when you want to read the information back from the session, you're going to need this key. And this is how you read the information from the session. So first you need a variable where you're going to save this information to. Then http context.session.getString, and then the parameter here is the name of the key that you used previously to save. So the spelling has to be exactly the same. If it's not, this is not going to work. Now there is two more methods on the session that you can use. You can use the set integer 32, and you can also use the set. However, I like to use the set string because it feels for me it's easier, and also it's the most used one. For our program for this week, we're going to create another view called edit, and then we're going to create a link from page 2 that goes to the edit view. When you go from page 2 to the controller, you're going to use a DAO class to get the person model from this database, and then you're going to get this model and you're going to send this model down to the edit page. Now the reason we want to do that is for this week you're going to let the user edit his or her information. So now let's take a look on how we're going to accomplish that. So the DAOPerson class has a method called getPerson. This method returns a person model, and this method requires a person ID as a parameter. So the person ID is something that by now you should have in your session. So from the last week's assignment, as soon as you saved the information to the database, if you remember, it returned you a person ID, and then you saved that person ID on the session. So you're going to use that parameter now here on the getPerson, and the getPerson is going to return a person model. If the person is not found, it just returns null. So let's take a look on the code. So from last week, you added the person to the database. Now it's important to notice that I'm hiding some code right here because this is the answer from last week. And I'm doing the same thing right here. So this is how you save the person ID to the session. So this is a string and this is the key. So on this action, you're gonna read the person ID from the session, and then you're gonna use this person ID to go to the database and pick up the person model from the database. And the way you're gonna do that, you're gonna instantiate a DAO person class, then you get the person model from the database, and then you're gonna send the person model to the view. Now let's take a look on the page 2. So the page 2 is very similar to the last assignment. The only difference now is that we have a link here, and this link calls this action, and then this action gets the information from the database and then sends down to the. Now let's take a look on the view now. On the view, the first thing you need is the model, and then you have here a form, and this is very, very similar to the form that you wrote before to create a new user. The only difference you have is now that you have a value right here. And what this does, it includes the model value right here for you. So let's run this code here to see what it looks like for now. So the first thing, I want to go to my database, and I want to make sure that the person table is empty. So I'm going to use a select, run. I have something here. I'm just going to put a star for now to be short. And I'm going to delete so delete everything. Now if I run again, I have nothing on the database. Now back to my code. I'm going to run this program and then fill out some information. Click on submit. This is great. So I'm just gonna go to the database to make sure that the information is going there, and yes, it is. And now I have a link here called edit my info. I'm gonna click here, and then when I click here, it went to the controller, and then it called the DAO class, and it picked up the information from the database, and then it sent down here. So from this page, we can start editing here, and then for the next week, we're gonna click on submit, and then we're gonna update this information on the database. For this week, all I want is for you to read the information from the database and then display right here on this text box. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.